Hey guys, so this is that other science guy, and today we're going to be making a lightsaber. Specifically Luke Skywalker's lightsaber from Return of the Jedi. So I found the tech specs for several of the lightsabers from the shows, or the movies. Luke's and Obi-Wan's were very symmetrical, so they're actually pretty straightforward. They look a little complicated, but we're actually going to nail this pretty easy. I've gone ahead and started sketching it to save some time, but let me explain how we started this guy. So we took one of our cross sections here, and I cut it in half along the mid plane here, all the way through, and then I started sketching the silhouette of it across where it is. So I had to start with by looking up all the dimensions on here. So you have to read a tech spec, or the technical specifications of one of these documents, and you're going to have to be able to look at where your dimensions are and be able to manipulate them as you need to replicate them in a thing if you're doing your own project, or want to adapt to one of the other ones. So these are all in diameters, so I had to go ahead and cut them in half to get to radii, because we're dealing with radii here. And then I was subtracting radii from each other to get the differences here to go up. So I've started. If you need one of these, I can give you one in class, and if you're not one of my students, I'll try to remember to put a link in down below to where you can find one of these. And you can always request it, and I'll send it to you in a message. All right. So pan. So I started down here, went 9.5 up, over 23.5 over, and kept going. And then I got to these guys. These guys took a special little trick that I figured I'd show you while I was doing it, because this is the ribbed part here. I know that each little bar here oscillates between 3 and 2, and it changes as it goes. It's not very consistent, so you'll have to pay attention to that as you're going. So these triangle pieces here are 5 millimeters across total, and then I went and bisected them for the dip. So when this first piece was 4.5 millimeters, and then this piece was 3.5, because the height of the ribbed gap here is 3.5 millimeters, and then 2.5 over. So 2.5 times 2 is 5, which is why I have the distance here. So what I did was draw this guy first, and I offsetted him the distances, and then connected the dots. So I offset him first 2.5 for the distance of only half a triangle, then 3 for the width of the first guy, because that's what he is. 3, and then 2, then 3, 3, 3, 2, 3, 2, 2. So I then offset this guy 5, and then 2, 5, 3, 5, 3, 5, 3, and so on, all the way to the end here. And then I was connecting the dots as I went. Or sorry, not I connected them after I finished the offsets. So now I'm going to keep doing this. So 3, go down to the middle here, then I'll keep going. I will say that the whole lightsaber model is a foot long, about, which is actually too long for our printer. So there's actually, if you want a full scale, you'll have to cut them in a certain way to get it to fit on the printer, the printing bed, which is fine. I designed it a certain way for quick access, to do it, and I'll show you at the end. So let's go ahead and use the trim function here to clean up, okay? Then we'll just go through and mop up all my little guidelines that I was using. Yeah, and because it's such a big print, it does take about 16 hours and about 40 minutes, I believe, to print off a lightsaber on the lowest quality setting of our printer. So I would suggest doing a scaled down one if you want a higher quality, more reasonable print. Okay, now I'm bringing up our schematics here. I actually have, I've used the, you can't see them up here, but it's in one of my hand. This width here is 51 millimeters, and there's a little 2 millimeter gap for the button that goes up. And then, yeah, so let's start doing that. So this first little piece here, though, is 4. Nope, it is 12. And then we're going to go up 4.5 millimeters. Then we go over 51. It's going to give us a good gap here. Then we're going to go down 0.5 millimeters. Go over 3 millimeters. Go back up 0.5. Go over, I believe, 31. Yep. And if you're one of my viewers and you don't have one of these in front of you, I'm really hoping you can just pause to follow along with these schematics as we're going. So I've done 51, 3, 31. This guy here has the cool little trapezoid parts. I'm going to do the full width of the guy, which is, can't see it up here, 35 millimeters. Well, it's 25 for this piece and then 35 for that guy. So let's go ahead and do that. So this goes down. 1.5. And then over 35. Now we're going to go all the way down here. And then connect our guy. Now we have a full cross-sectional cut silhouette of our lightsaber guy. Alright, now for the fun part. This is just a trick for really symmetrical things, where I can now enter 3D mode, take this surface, hit pull, and we're going to use a cool little function here called revolve around an axis. So we're going to revolve around axis, and then it has this little arrow guy pop on our thing, so we have to select an axis. I'm going to select this, the x-axis, because it happens to be our bisecting dude there. Select that guy. And then we're going to hit this guy and watch it happen. Full pull, which is going to revolve the whole thing in a full complete circle, 360 degrees. And we watch all the cool stuff happen. Now we have a lightsaber, minus some of the fancy pieces. Let's go ahead and add some fancy pieces now. Let's do those trapezoid parts. So let me orient myself here. Let's put a plane here. So I hit this plane, and then just kind of put it on the surface here. It doesn't particularly matter how you get it oriented, as long as we get it looking alright. So this plane cut off the part that goes above our plane so we can see where we are, which conveniently allows me to take the offset function here. And I'm going to control click both of them so they're both highlighted, so it lets me offset the whole guy. Remember, there was a distance of 10 millimeters before the trapezoid part started, and the trapezoid part itself is 19, hold on, make sure we select just this guy, 19 millimeters, and then there should be 6 right here. So now we've got the range of the length of our trapezoid. Now I need the width, which is, if I look at my schematics, 10 millimeters. To do this, I'm going to take the offset, take the middle guy, and go up 5 on either side. So I took 10, divided it in half, and put it on both sides. Okay. Then we'll take trim, this guy here, and tidy this guy up. If I can click on them, get these guys. This line is going to stay there. It's a point of contact, so it's not going to go away. Alright, it's not a trapezoid yet, so we gotta work on that. So let's go ahead and pull him up into a rectangular prism here for 6 millimeters. Alright, now we're going to do a fancy pull function here on the edges. So if you click all these edges on the top here, and then click our pivot edge over here. This is going to allow us to shrink this top piece. So probably can't see very well, but the arrow pointing down there is highlighted, which means it would pivot along this plane, which just means it's going to slide up and down, which isn't useful to us. So we're going to hit tab to highlight the next arrow, so it's going to pivot inside, internal. And I'm just going to type in 2 millimeters, because I was messing around earlier and I thought that looked cool. Alright. And let's go ahead and orient ourselves. And I want to get this guy in here. So I've selected that surface. I'm going to use the pull function, and I'm going to go ahead and pull him down into there. Okay. Now he's been pulled down to the surface here, and he's a full guy. So that's a that was the pull. I could have done a pull up to surface, except because it was just barely in contact, it was going to give me like an error message. So you can just do it manually and drag it in. He has served his purpose. I don't need him anymore. So now I'm going to show you another cool little trick called patterning. So we're going to use patterns to replicate this guy along the pommel of our lightsaber. So I am going to come in. Actually, I'm going to plan view here just so I can orient myself. Okay. So I'm going to take your select, make sure select is, oops, so press escape a few times if you have to, or just click this, drag and pull to select that component, or that little full solid piece. We're going to then hit move, and now we need to check the create patterns button down here. So it's going to now know that we want to, as I rotate this guy, make copies of him, but first I have to move the rotational piece down here. Now I rotate. And then I can make it. It takes the angle that I've rotated it to, and infers how many. I'm pointing at my screen, but the count. It infers the count that it wants me to have, or that it thinks I want it to have. So if I hit like I think 270 or something, it goes to 3 or 4. But we want 6, so we're going to get a little closer here. 7, 6. Because on the schematics I counted 6. And now we have some fancy trapezoidal prisms on our pommel. Alrighty, it's starting to look good. Checking back to our text back here. Looks like we have a 4mm piece. However, it does not look like it extrudes out at all, so it's probably a little hole, little indent, which is fine. Plan view, I'm going to zoom in a bit, grab circle, go ahead and hit the origin here, and it's going to come out 4mm. I'm going to go ahead and hit pull, which automatically puts me into 3D mode. I'm going to get this surface, and it didn't give me any real clue as to how far that went in. It could have just been a different piece of alloy in the pommel. So just to give the illusion that something useful is there, we're going to just go in, I guess, 2mm. Let me look here. I don't want it to come out though. I want it to go in. So I'm going to go minus 2mm. There we go. Now it just looks like a little added feature. There's a similar hole over here. Looking at my schematic, right here, 4mm also. Not quite specific on where I placed it, so we'll just put it not quite halfway. So I'm just gonna click plane here, and I'm gonna, so as you slide your mouse along, it's gonna orient this plane where we gotta want it. I'm just gonna pick it right about, no, I don't want to do that. Plane, and I'll click here. If I click the axis, it goes into the middle, and I don't want it on the surface, so I can enter sketch mode on it. There we go. So now that line's the point of contact. I'm going to draw a circle. Remember, it wasn't at the center, it was a little up. So let's try here at 4 and see what it looks like. Schematic, that looks a little big. No, that looks right. And that actually went all the way through. So we may actually do something. Yep. So I would hit 3D mode again. Get rid of this plane. We don't need him anymore. And take this dude. Pull. Make sure cut is selected. Get rid of this guy. And I'm gonna pull it to about the center. So about 10. It didn't feel like cutting, did it? Make sure cut is selected. Doesn't want to cut. Alright. Next plan. So we'll come back to this dude in a second. We now need a button, actually. So let me check here. We need it to be 19 millimeters wide by 49 millimeters long along the top of this guy. So let's go ahead and create a plane about here. And enter sketch mode on the plane. Plan view. We know we're going to use offset. Hit this middle guy. Let's see, what, 19 wide, so 9.5. I cut it in half. Millimeters on the top and 9.5 on the bottom. Gives us the width of our guy. This doesn't give me a line, does it? But I can take this guy and make one. Actually, I can take this guy and make one. And then I'm going to offset that guy by 2. Because, and you can't see it here, but there's 2 millimeters before the button starts. Okay. Alright, got a fancy. Let's go ahead and actually trim. Get rid of these guys. Oops. Actually. Yeah, we need a line here to connect the ends there. Now under 3D mode, we got a button. Pull them. Well, we got a surface of a rectangle. Pull them up a height. We need the height of our button, so let's go ahead and actually check our schematics. How tall is this guy? 17. Oh, sorry, right here. 17 millimeters. So we're going up 17 millimeters. Alright, it's still its own solid, so we're going to actually hit this surface, hit pull. If you did a pull 2, in a perfect world it would work, and you click the surface, it would extrude all the way down into the surface. It likes to give me these errors because it's in a barely piece of point of contact there. So, if it was just above, it would work just fine. I'm going to pull it down manually and just drag it down until it hits contact. Now it's all part of one solid. If you triple click 1, 2, 3, it'll select the entire solid. Double click, usually selects the piece. Alright, now we got a piece of a button. Cool. Now, let's think here. When you're building or designing things in your CAD, you want to think about how the printer prints, because that's going to constrain how you do this. The printer cannot print in thin air. So depending on how you angle this guy, it's going to have trouble printing things. Well, it's not really going to have trouble. It's going to build a bunch of supports, which is using a plastic to get up there, and so it has like a scaffold to print on. So I'm looking at the schematics here, and it looks like our button has a lip here that kind of comes off, which is fine. It's cool. The printer's going to try to print supports up here because it can't print off the edge like that. It can bridge gaps but it's gonna fail, and it's gonna have a mess up if it tries to print off the edge like that without a support. So we're gonna live with it. All right. So I mean, I personally, if it was my lightsaber, wouldn't even do that. I would just leave it as a little button. But some of you want the full thing. Okay. Looking at our guy here, we have the width of that guy, which I had determined to be 2.5 millimeters. Let's go ahead and offset him by 2.5 millimeters. And now I'm going to offset the internal guy, who also happens to be 2.5 millimeters, and then 1 millimeter for the gap. And this is going to create that internal ribbed piece. 2.5. You could, we have the capacity to make this thing slide in and out. If you guys would like to see that, go ahead and let me know in the comments, and I'll make a separate video how to amend the button to have this as a sliding piece, and then we can go ahead and mess around and make all the little tiny internal pieces here. They're just rectangles and circles. It's fairly straightforward. Although there's obviously no dimensions for it, so we'd be winging the whole thing, which is fine. We'd still make it look cool. 2.5. 1. 2.5. I feel like there's probably an easier way to do this, but it currently eludes me. 2.5. And then we're going to embed these little gaps down about 2 millimeters. To give the appearance of the ribbed piece. Alright. Yeah, it ends as an edge, but I don't mind. I think I'll just have an extra wide piece here, and I'm just going to offset this guy by 1.5, I guess, just to make it a little less obvious that it's a bigger piece. We got a bunch of pieces in there. I should have cut that first. Trim, trim, trim. Clean these guys up. Then after this we have to make the... I'll show you guys how to do the overhang for this button piece, and then we'll go into cutting it and getting it ready for a print. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and select 3D mode first. Then I'm going to select these little surfaces in here, not the edges but the surfaces. Scroll up, hit these guys. Pull them. Arrows went up, so I'm going to go negative 2 down. So that made them pretty deep, but I'm going to make these guys go down 1 millimeter. So it gives our other piece the illusion of, so pull -1. It goes down 1. Now we have a fancy ribbed piece for our button. Let's go ahead and enter sketch mode on the side here. Plan view, in, offset, this guy down 2.5, and 2.5, because right here is where that little overhang came from. So 3D mode. This guy's gonna pull out 1 millimeter, and this guy's 1.5. Okay. Sketch mode. Plan view. Offset down 2.5. 2.5. 3D mode. Pull 1. Pull 1.5. Alright. The button also has another piece that overhangs here. Let's figure out how big that guy is. It is 6 by 4. It looks like it has a small gap inside, which is cool. I actually should have done something before I did that. I'm going to enter sketch mode on this guy. Wait a minute. This is just below it. Goes down 4. There's a piece here. There we go. Whatever. Sketch mode on this dude. Plan view. What was the width of that thing? Did it give us the width? It did up here, didn't it? 12 millimeters, and there's 2 of them, so 24 total. So, offset this guy, 12, 12, it does say 4, but it has a piece. It's gonna pull out 6, I can tell that. Oh, 5, down, sorry, 5. I found it. This guy over here. And let's do some trims. Trims. 3D mode. I'm gonna pull both, but it's gonna get rid of that line. I'll recreate it. I'm just gonna go to 6. Remember, it's going to print supports for this. We'll just have to live with that. Now let's go ahead and enter sketch mode on this piece. Plan view. Looking back at the pieces here. Looks like there's like 1 millimeter that comes in. And like 2 down. But it has to be a 1 down actually. Oh, it can't be 1, it has to be 2. Let's offset this guy out 1, and you up. There. That was 2.87, I think, on my thing. I want to use trim to get rid of this piece. I'm then going to take 3D mode, take this guy, pull. I want to cut. Make sure, just cut selected, get rid of that dimension restrainer. And we're going to pull this guy all the way through to cut a hole into our piece here. There you go. Now, there's a line there, but it's just a line, which it's not going to meet, a line will not meet anything to our printer, so we'll have to make something there. Even if it's just like a little 0.5 gap guy. So let's go ahead and offset this guy in 12. I'm going to offset this guy by 0.25. 0.25. That's a bit of a big guy, but, and I'll delete this middle line. 3D mode. Pull this guy, cut, undo that guy. Pull in. Oh, actually, Control C. I'm going to pull it, but arrow's pointing outwards, so I'm going to go negative. And I know that they came out 6. I'm just going to negative 6. That takes me straight flush against that guy. Alright, I got a button with some pieces on it. Now we got to cut this guy for printing. Let's go ahead and get rid of the plane here. Let's go ahead and that when you move things, you click on either the axis that you're going to move it in or the angle you're going to rotate it in. I'm just rotating my plane to about here. Wait a minute. That wasn't the plane I wanted. Plane on the x-axis. And if I move this guy, it creates an auto pivot not on my axis. So I'm going to take this guy and manually stick him on my axis here. Oh, darn it. I accidentally pressed escape. Let's try that again. Move, select the plane, it's going to go here, and I'm going to move it to here, the axis, so that when I rotate it, it rotates about the axis. Shows an interesting skew there for some reason. And I want to manually rotate this guy to be about here, so that when this guy prints, is as much on top as possible. Yep. Now that that's rotated, I am going to use a split body command here. You're going to select the solid you're going to cut into pieces, and you're going to select the plane you're going to cut it at. That cuts it. Okay, and these are two separate solids. So, whoops. If I triple click, it selects half of that guy. I want to go ahead and move that guy. Click on this arrow because I'm moving him up or down. Arrow's pointing up, trying to go negative 25 millimeters, and that moves it down. So now I have a cut in half piece. Now, I personally do not want to print an entire thing of plastic, so I'm going to take... I just realized I made a little mistake there. Well, I made a mistake there. I'll remake him in a moment. I'm going to shell these internal guys to about 3 millimeters. Shell 2, 3. That'll show you there's a thick enough wall on the insides of those. I can actually cut that off if I wanted to make a hole straight in. You could do that by hitting the surface and then pulling through would cut, but I kind of like it, so I'm going to leave it there. And I'm going to pan over here, and let's go ahead and make the little hole that we had a moment ago. So let's go ahead and make a plane. Let's do it about there. Click on it, enter sketch mode, plan view, orient yourself. I'm going to go ahead and circle, hit this, not the center, so that guy, 4 millimeters. 3D mode, hit this guy, hit pull, hit cut, undo that dimension constraint, and now I'm just going to angle myself, and then I'm going to pull it in through so it cuts a hole. It doesn't want to cut a hole, does it? Let's see why it's doing that. Maybe it's that point of contact thing again. I'm going to take this guy and move him this way just a millimeter. I don't need you anymore, or you. Take you, pull, cut, undo. Pull it through. It's not in a cooperative mood. I'll live without it for now, I suppose. Actually, I'm determined now. Plane. We'll go ahead and move him out. Maybe it's because we made him on a surface. Sketch mode. Circle. Here. 4. Pull. Well, that'll be weird, wouldn't it? I'm going to just hit the surface. Oh, that makes it bigger. I want it bigger. also make sure he's cut. And let's just really hope it wants to cooperate now. Cut. It's just determined, I guess. We'll just have to live with that little guy. Orient. Get rid of this guy. Get rid of this guy. Now we need to get him to print, so let's go ahead and do what we've done before. This is the bottom. Move to new component. Rename the component. I'm going to name it to lightsaber bottom. Enter. And this top guy, rename, move to new component, rename it to lightsaber top. Okay. Now when I click on these guys, they're separate components of the assembly of Luke's lightsaber. Again, this is about a foot long, so it won't actually fit on our printer bed. I, in the past, have cut it at this plane here, and then elongated an internal piece that actually went in here, so that it printed these two pieces that you would then glue together and slide in and glue that. For a full guy. I'm going to encourage you guys to scale these guys down, which we can do actually if we were to go to matter control. First we have to convert those guys to STL files. So let's save those two guys to desktop. Oops, that was a lightsaber that's already opened. Oh wait, we skipped a step actually. Source, convert to external. Source, convert to external. Now we can do that. Lightsaber bottom, lightsaber top. File, save as, lightsaber top, STL. Remember, STL is what our printer reads it in. Lightsaber bottom. File, save as, STL. Now we got these guys, so let's go ahead and I was messing around with stuff earlier. Remove. Oh yeah, our printer or our design can't do text, so you'll have to do text in this program. We're going to add the desktop. Let's do bottom. See, that is abnormally large on our printer bed, so we'll also be adding. So we'll insert lightsaber top, and it moved them all the way. We're going to auto arrange so it sticks them next to each other. Scale it down, I don't know, 25%. Oh, I wanted both of them. So that's a 4th size lightsaber. And then he would just take this guy and he would rotate him, not on the y-axis. Be an x-axis, I believe. Actually, let's see if it auto-arranged it. Yeah. You'd mess around with the align until you got him rotated flat down onto the bed. And then you would save that, and we'd start prints. Let's go ahead and actually take a look at how... Actually, we can't. Alright, well that's that. So, that's a lightsaber. Thanks for watching. If you guys want to see Obi-Wan's lightsaber or Darth Vader's or such, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like or subscribe. Thanks for watching.